our third in this series is, do you know God's democracy is to be a beacon to this world's hatred, divisiveness, and confusion? God's democracy? Let's take a look at this more carefully. Democracy as we know it today was founded by the Greeks, actually, around 600 BC. Their forum for democracy was called Ekklesia, called out ones, where diverse citizens of a city came together. They were called out. Each had an opportunity to freely speak their particular perspective before voting to take a particular action. Now, this form of democracy was adopted later on by the Romans for local governments, and it continues in the form of a town meeting, even in the United States of America and in many nations in the world today. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 16, I will build my Ekklesia. Now, we mistranslated this word to church. I will build my church. And we're going to explain what we mean by the fact that it was mistranslated. Jesus appropriated a very secular forum and declared that he would have his own type of Ekklesia. The disciples knew what he was talking about, but he says, I'm going to build my own Ekklesia. Now, what a contrast his Ekklesia, his form of democracy is when compared to the secular town halls of today. If you haven't been to one lately, try it out. One could witness democracy today. It's full of divisiveness, hatred, confusion, and corruption. Everybody may get a chance to speak, if not speaking over others. The more secular society stresses equality, inclusion, diversity, the more it seems the result is more inequality, segregation, strife, and aversion to those different than oneself. Christians have fallen into this same trap or attitude with each other by condemning and opposing those different in perspectives and understanding than their own particular group again. Now, God's Ekklesia, or democracy, that the Lord is building is one where there is freedom to be distinct and different, but in Christ. And each believer can voice their perspectives of life in Jesus. In other words, we can all prophesy according to their own experience and understanding. The Lord's Ekklesia is fully described in between 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17 to the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Now, unlike this world's democracy, God's Ekklesia is one where individuals who may be considered undesirable are honored, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, where love between those contrary to each other is experienced and manifested by his love. This is found in 1 Corinthians 13. And where their liberty to share, to give their input in oneness causes the world to be so impressed that they would believe and worship God in that assembled group. That's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Now, God's Ekklesia, his eternal purpose, shows his chief adversary, Satan, that out of this fallen, sinful, and divided humanity, people can love one another in unity, according to Ephesians chapter 3. Now, this can only happen because God's children have his eternal, divine life, nature, and love in their midst. What a testimony is expressed on behalf of Jesus Christ living through his believers when we come together. Now is the time to show this kind of love and kindness and forgiveness, starting from within the household of God and extending out to the world around us.